Hi guys, today I'm going to talk about some books that I have read recently and one that I just finished last week, I think. Um, I'm going to be talking about some Stephen King books. I have read 3 Stephen King books so far. I've read The Shining, The Stand, and The Gunslinger, which I don't have to show you because I already returned it to the library. Which is fine because I didn't end up liking it anyway. So I want to first talk about what I used to think about Stephen King. I used to think that Stephen King was just a pulp fiction writer. You know, he only wrote horror novels, and it was, just horror, no craft. Okay, just so that he could get those books out on the bookshelves and make some money. But my sister-in-law encouraged me to give The Shining a try because she really enjoyed it when she read it. And I have to say that I was really impressed, and my opinion about Stephen King has changed 100%. So I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about what each book is about, and then I'm going to talk about why I love Stephen King so much. Okay, this is The Shining. The Shining is about a little family, I think from Maine, who moves to Colorado so that the dad can be the caretaker for a hotel in the middle of the winter time. And the dad struggles with a lot of things. They are definitely not a happy family. And so it's about their winter in that hotel out in the mountains in Colorado. And that's really all I can tell you because the rest of the story is the plot, and I don't want to ruin it for you. You know it's a horror story, so be warned. That's what that one is mainly about. The Stand is a post-apocalyptic novel. The world is basically ending. So human civilization is ending because the US military has created a super flu and accidentally releases it in the United States. And when they found out that they accidentally released it in the United States, they sent it to all the other countries too. So 90% of the population dies, and the story really picks up. It introduces you to some characters in the beginning of that fiasco, and then takes you through as they gather together, find each other, and try to figure out how to survive what happens next. So that's The Shining and The Stand. The Gunslinger, I don't have it to show you, but it is a quest story. When Stephen King wrote it, in the introduction, he says that he was trying to write a quest story like Tolkien, but that was entirely his own. And because we don't need another Lord of the Rings because Tolkien did that, right? We need something. Stephen King wanted to write a quest story that was entirely his own, and I will say he did succeed in that. It is a quest story, and it is all Stephen King, but I didn't like it. So in the plot, the main character, the gunslinger, is going off in search of the Dark Tower. You don't really know a lot about the world that he lives in. It is a fantasy, so that makes it really interesting, but other than that, I really wasn't interested in it. So, which is really disappointing because I loved The Shining and The Stand, and I would absolutely recommend it to anybody who wants to think. So I'm going to get into a little bit of why I like Stephen King so much, and then why I didn't really like The Stand, because I just don't think it lives up to what Stephen King is capable of. Okay, so there are a few things that I really love about Stephen King's novels. Number one, I think the characters are really amazing. They are believable and well fleshed out, and they're unique. I will say, I think the female characters are less fleshed out and unique than the male characters, but there is still some diversity there and some character development. More so in The Shining than in The Stand, in my opinion. Also, the plots are very intriguing. You go into a Stephen King novel thinking it's just going to scare you, but it keeps you captivated the entire time. He is so good at building the suspense so that you can't put the book down. You have to know what happens next. And I think this is really important in a book like The Stand. It is well over 1,000 pages. I think it's it's almost 1,200 pages long. This is the uncut version. I didn't know that when I bought it. And I wasn't bored once while I was reading it, and the same goes for The Shining. He keeps you intrigued. He is an excellent storyteller, which I totally did not expect. I was so pleased when I realized that. Another thing that I like about Stephen King, which I definitely did not know going into it, and this is why I like Stephen King, he's so full of surprises, okay? When you read a Stephen King novel, at least the 3 that I have read, you begin to realize that Stephen King really knows his Bible, okay? He has his stories, the 3 that I have read, are full of biblical imagery, biblical plots, and what I'll go ahead and call biblical themes, like original sin and things like that, which as a Christian make it very intriguing to me because it really causes me to think about what I believe about those things. And I think that's a really important thing to think about. I never come away from a Stephen King novel just ready to go on to the next thing. I have to sit and think about it for a while and talk about it for a while and gush over all the new things I got to think about and consider while I was reading it. And I will say those 3 things, the characters, the plots, and the biblical imagery, I loved them all. In The Shining, read this, and in The Stand, but I didn't like them in The Gunslinger. The Gunslinger, as I said, is a quest story. The main character is trying to go and find the Dark Tower. Don't really know what he's planning on doing there. Don't really know why he's going to find the Dark Tower. And so one of the reasons I didn't like The Gunslinger is because the writing is really disjointed. It doesn't flow well. It was difficult to follow. Stephen King would jump from scene to scene, which normally is fine in a book, but he just didn't really have a whole lot of understanding of what was happening. I also did not like the main character. I could not identify with his motivation. I didn't like the things that he did. He did a lot of things that I think are really wrong, and as if Stephen King is trying to say here that the ends justify the means, and I just don't think that's true. Not in this case. There are lots of books where I can buy into that, but not in this one. And I disliked the main character so much that I didn't want him to succeed on his quest. I did not want him to find the Dark Tower. No matter how much I wanted to know what the Dark Tower was, I wanted the Gunslinger to fail. And I don't think that's really what a book should be when you read it. I don't think you should hate the main character, although, sometimes that happens. And as I said before, normally I really like the way that Stephen King deals with good and evil because it makes me think about it, think about what I think about good and evil. And I will definitely say The Gunslinger certainly made me consider that. But when I thought about what The Gunslinger is saying about good and evil, I didn't like it as much. As I said, The Gunslinger, I really can't decide who he is. I can't decide what his motivation is. I can't decide if what he's doing is actually an honorable quest. And I have no idea if the Dark Tower is... I have no idea what the Dark Tower is, whether it's a positive influence in the world or a negative influence in the world. And that's a very serious impression that it's negative. But I just wonder what Stephen King is doing there and where the story is going to go. Because Gunslinger is the first in a series called The Dark Tower, so I should have mentioned that earlier. But if you're watching this, you probably already know that. I guess I should go back and say some good things about The Gunslinger. It's a really interesting fantasy world that I enjoyed reading about. There are lots of really interesting aspects to it, like a possible time loop and alternate dimensions and worlds, all sort of connecting somehow, which is interesting. I am intrigued by the Dark Tower. As I said, I want to know what it is, but I just wish the main character would just go ahead and die. But that's just my opinion. So I've only read 3 Stephen King books. I would love to hear from you to hear, number 1, do you like to read Stephen King? Which Stephen King books have you read? Which do you think I should read? Which have been your favorite? And I especially want to know what you think about The Gunslinger, because it's the beginning of a series. I am intrigued, but I don't like the main character, so I want to hear your opinion. Should I continue to read the series? Should I give the second book a try, or should I just scrap it? Is this series not worth my time? I would love your opinion, because I think hearing what you guys have to say will help me understand the character's motivation a little bit more, and hopefully that will make it a more positive experience for me. So that's what I had to say about Stephen King so far. I definitely want to read more. I guess on a to-be-read list, I know that the movie It is coming out soon, and I am tempted to read the book, although the original movie did give me nightmares at quite a young age. So if I really want to scare myself, I'm sure that I will read it. But when I went to the library last week to pick up a copy, it was gone. So somebody else had the same idea that I did. And I slept well for a week because of that, so that's good news. Okay, so let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys all have a great day. Bye.